Welcome to As We Get Older. I'm Laura Ornduff, and here I have with me David Moore again.
Hello, nice
Welcome
to be
again.
here again.
And in this video, we want to talk about the daughter from California syndrome.
Now, this is actually something I had never heard of before until Laura explained it to me, and now I get it. But Laura, how did you come across this term?
Actually, it was at my father's nursing home, and this was a few days he was actually in under hospice care. He was still at the nursing facility, and basically a relative had visited who had not been around for a while, and it was very stressful. And after he left, the nurse happened to say, "Oh, daughter from California," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And basically, it was coined from a gentleman, an author from the 2015 book, and it was basically daughter from California. And if you're on the West Coast, it's daughter from New York. And it basically means someone who has not been around. They come in, like for example, let's say David, let's say we're siblings and you're there taking care of mom. And I've been in California because we are on the East Coast. I've been in California and I walk in and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're not doing this, you're not doing this, where you've been basically carrying the burden on your own for the last 4 or 5 years. I come in and basically tell you everything's wrong, you're not handling the finances correctly, and I just basically point out everything that's not correct and how I would have done it differently.
And that's after the relative hasn't been there for the long haul.
Right. Again, it could be simply they moved. It may not be intentional. Maybe they've just moved somewhere else. They've been overseas. It's not unintentional, but they just haven't been there.
And they, as if they're taking over.
Yes.
This happened with my mother, but my mother's sister had not really been a part of my mother's health care toward the end of her life, and literally came about 4 days before my mother passed away and let us all know what we weren't doing correctly.
And it's hard. So hard. It's very hard. So how, as someone who is dealing with the proverbial daughter from California, no matter where you live, what are some things they can do?
Well, I do think if you are the loved one who's been there the whole time, and now this other person, friend, relative shows up and lets you know you're not doing everything correctly, the first thing I would do is get out of the room of the loved one who might be passing away. Do not have this discussion over them, even if you think they're unconscious or otherwise not paying attention. Go out into another room of your home or nursing home or hospital or wherever you happen to be, and basically educate that person of here's why we've done what we've done. And maybe just some simple education would be all that would be needed to let that person know, okay, maybe I can back off here.
Okay. And that's first step. But let's say the person's coming in and they're still just insistent and they just have an attitude of, I know so much more, I'm so much better. Suggestions?
Well, that can be very tricky. I do think staff of a nursing home or hospice or hospital can help you and would be on your side. Maybe they could help explain stuff to the other relative about why things are being done the way they're being done. And if that still doesn't work, you may have to come to the point where you've got to ask that person to leave the surroundings. And that's very difficult, and everyone would have to judge that on their own when they're in that kind of a situation, but honestly, that happens a lot.
And I was very fortunate where Dad was. The staff did help step in. Unfortunately, like the hospice, as we were talking earlier, the hospice nurse we had just put Dad into hospice, she didn't know, and she thought this person was in charge. And apparently, she was very quickly corrected.
Yes.
And I found out later, actually, an individual in the staff, when I was sent to go get lunch, the daughter from California didn't offer. I was sent to get some lunch. Basically told this person off.
Wow.
I did not know that until after my father passed.
Got it.
And I was like, thank you.
Well, I had my aunt showed up, and at that point, my mother was already in hospice. And I just don't think my mother understood what hospice was or what hospice was about, and was looking for things to be done for my mother that just isn't part of hospice care. And that's where we had our struggles. And then it took some education on my aunt's behalf to get her to back off a little bit. And then she had to be asked to leave by the hospice people and never come back to hospice. But anyway, that's how that works.
So again, Before we move on to the next thing, please utilize the staff. Talk to the
Yes.
chaplain, no matter what your religious beliefs are and all that. Use the chaplain, use the social worker, use the nurse. I mean, because they've been working with your loved one. They probably have a good bond with them, and they want to do what's best.
Your relative isn't the first daughter from California they've had to deal with.
Yeah.
Now, the other part is, let's say you have been away and you come back and you're honestly the daughter from California walking into a situation that perhaps you've been in the military, you've been overseas, you haven't really been a part of. That's another difficult issue if you're on that end of the thing.
So what do you do? So let's say again we're siblings, and I'm genuinely trying to help. I'm not trying to be an arrogant. I mean, I'm going, wow, okay, because again, in fairness, when you are not in the situation, when you're in the situation every day, there are things that happen you don't see anymore. And
Right.
so when an outside eyes, people talk about that in different situations, an outside eyes comes in and they see, ooh, maybe the underwear's not being changed as quickly as possible, or the food's cold, or, mom can't even eat that. Why are we giving her that kind of food? If you are the daughter from California, how can you help genuinely? Because you want to help.
Yeah, and yeah, those people don't necessarily have bad or malicious intentions. They just don't know. So I think if you come in sort of when things have already been arranged or um, finalized, and you're the one coming in from the outside, I guess I would start by just asking some questions like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And just at least try to educate yourself before you start giving orders.
And perhaps some, I hate to use the word positive affirmations, but truly it's like, David, I know you've done this by yourself.
Oh,
You have done an amazing job. I thank you. But one thing I'm seeing is I'm not seeing that the bed's being changed as much. Is there a reason? So
right,
again, it's the way you phrase it.
right.
It's, again, remind the person they've done a great job, because they probably have lost sleep and everything.
They've probably been there 24/7 for quite a while, and that's exhausting. So give them some kudos for doing that.
So, all right. Hope you've had some things to think about. Again, if you are dealing with the daughter from California or New York, or if you find yourself you are the daughter from California, again, utilize the staff at the nursing facility, or if the loved ones at home, maybe call your support system. Maybe you've got you talk to maybe the doctor, the patient, your loved one's doctor, something, and just say, hey, can you get some resources for me?
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you for watching, and I hope you watch some more videos in the As We Get Older series.